What's up, friends, and welcome into Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast, Week 3 Running Back Ranks. I'm Chris Welsh, and of course, I am joined by Andrew Erickson and Pat Fitzmaurice as we are going to be going through the top 36 running backs according to expert consensus ranks on Fantasy Pros ECR. We're going to talk about some of the biggest names, hopefully answer some running back questions ahead of time that I know you guys are going to have, where ECR is moving, and I can tell you, things are a-moving, friends. We have a running back that we're going to talk about here in just a second that was like 17 a day ago and moved all the way up to 12. So we have some high flying stuff. Hopefully we can catch all of it. And sometimes you wish, we were talking about it off air, Erickson, that like, want some of these moves happen a bit later in the week so we could take advantage of it. Jordan Mason on the betting front, but there's going to be some fun running back things to cover. Do you think running back feels weaker this week, or do you think we've had some questions answered over the last 2 weeks that build a little bit more confidence in who you're going to be starting? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm alluding to like, there's the Ken Walker situation last week. You know, Mason's a little bit more clear. Maybe you feel better about Warren. Do you think there's more clarity in our backfields, or do you think there's as many questions as we went into week 1 with?
Well, we have one less crowded backfield because Aaron Jones is not going to play. So that's why we like Jordan Mason. So we did get something out of the way. So that was one of the backfields where it's kind of muddied. You know, it's 1A, 1B. Well, now it's just Jordan Mason, Sisson. Like, that's what we have here. So I think maybe some more clarity. I think we're getting more confidence about some of the guys that showed out in week 1, whether it's like Etienne or Dobbins or Javonte. Like, they're starting to really separate themselves from those other running backs in those respective backfields. So you can feel more confident about where you start them and also where they're being ranked now compared to last week and even before in week 1, where we still weren't sure how the backfield was going to shake out. But with 2 weeks of a sample size, I think we do feel better about some of these particular backfields. Although the Seahawks backfield is still, it just continues to look like a headache.
Everything clarity maybe, except if you're a rookie running back. And Fitzy, hopefully we're going to be able to tackle some of these questions, because are you ready for the onslaught of rookie running back who'd you rathers this week? Because, well, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to talk about Hampton. We're going to talk about TreVeyon Henderson. But, I mean, the top end of running backs are disappointing. The bottom end cheap guys have kind of played. We're going to be inundated with a gajillion questions about what we do with rookie running backs this week. And hopefully what we do here, Fitzy, is going to, like, answer some of those questions, right?
Yeah, we're going to bring a few of them up, Welsh, and I think people are wondering if this year's running back class was oversold based on how it was touted, and it's collectively off to a really slow start, but I would encourage people not to give up just yet and don't be.
So you don't think it's oversold?
No, I don't. I think it's a really good class, and I think some of these guys are going to hit before long.
All right, well, let's see which ones are going to hit. We'll talk about them. You guys want to follow along, go to fantasypros.com/rankings. Also, you could just do it throughout the week if you want to see the ups and downs of some of these players all the way up until kickoff. You can check this out. And there's lots of cool features on there, whether it's you can check out projected points, how they score versus their projections, if it's an A, B, C type of matchup that's out there. And you can even click on the players' names to get more insights, like, you know, which specific rankers have these players, other formats. Just go check it out. It's very cool. fantasypros.com/rankings. And that is what we are looking at today. Kicking off the top 12 running backs, starting with number 1, Bijan Robinson. Bijan, not Bijan. We now know. We figured that out from this week. He wants to be called Bijan after saying it was Bijan. He's going up against Carolina. We got number 2, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor, James Cook. That's your top 6. Followed by Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, Devon Achane, Chase Brown, and Jordan Mason. This was not the board we were going to be doing about 12 hours ago. 12 hours ago, we have a guy that just got booted from the top 12 for Jordan Mason, and we were going to be talking about him in the middle of the RB2 range. The news of Aaron Jones has some of the new rankers submitting, and this has pushed Jordan Mason in as an RB1 this week. You two gentlemen agree. Fitz, you've got him at 7. Erickson, you've got him at 11. So, Fitz, you're the high guy. Let's start with it. Top 7 back this week. Jordan Mason, unquestioned. No Aaron Jones. Only Cam Akers is sitting out there. So, let's hear your all-in on Jordan Mason.
Yeah, Aaron Jones out. He's on IR with a hamstring injury. That pretty much leaves this backfield to Jordan Mason. I know the Vikings signed Cam Akers, re-signed Cam Akers to their practice squad. I don't know if Akers is going to be active on Sunday, but if he is, probably not a lot of work for him. J.J. McCarthy is out. Carson Wentz in at quarterback for the Vikings. I think there's a good chance Jordan Mason gets 20 or more carries this week, and you can run on the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know how much you want backup quarterback Carson Wentz dropping back to throw when the Vikings are missing two key offensive linemen. Christian Darrisaw, their left tackle, has not been able to return from his 2024 knee injury yet. I don't know if he comes back this week. Probably not. Viking center Ryan Kelly got a concussion last week, and he's got a pretty worrisome concussion history, so I doubt he plays this week. I mean, if you're worried about your offensive line, you want to run more than you pass. Backup offensive linemen, I think you worry about less in the running game than in the passing game. So I really do think this is going to be a run-heavy game for the Vikings, and it sets up really well for Jordan Mason.
Yeah, the context too of like having a quarterback, a new quarterback come into the offense. And I mean, the Niners kind of dispelled it. I thought last week it was like, maybe you don't want Mac Jones to throw the ball a whole bunch. You want to go to McCaffrey? Nope. They did that. I could definitely see that. But if anything, if they were to pass the ball, it's going to just probably create more of an efficiency side for Jordan Mason. And he just looks great. Like, we're all look at him, Erickson. We're like, just give him more carries. Well, guess what? He gets the carries this week. You've got him at RB1.
Yeah, he's been one of the few bright spots, I think, in the Vikings offense over the last 2 weeks. Like, he's added a lot of juice to this offense when he's gotten attempts. And again, he hasn't seen that much volume, but now the volume floodgates are opening up for him with Aaron Jones out. So efficiency-wise, he's been top 10 in rushing yards above expectation through 2 weeks. And just to point out the specific matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals, their run defense, specifically against inside tackle runs, 32nd in the NFL through 2 weeks. I mean, Travis Etienne was running wild against the Cincinnati Bengals on these inside runs. Jordan Mason, 5.2 yards per carry running inside this season. Yeah, I think it's Jordan Mason all wheels up, and I think that he can be used as a 3-down bell cow. I mean, this is the reason I went out and got him. Like, the Vikings did not draft a running back. They went out and traded for Jordan Mason because, like, this guy we can lean on. We saw what he did without McCaffrey last year. Second in the NFL in rushing yards before his injury, behind only Saquon Barkley last season filling in for McCaffrey. They know what Jordan Mason can do, and I think they're going to feature him.
And hopefully this does give this answer, because I would predict one of the biggest questions this week is going to be these big names, Jordan Mason or. Like, I'm looking at this, even in the consensus above, it's going to be Jordan Mason or Chase Brown. I don't know. Do you guys, just real quick, do you guys have Jordan Mason above Chase Brown this week?
Yeah, I do.
Yes. I do too.
Okay, so I agree. And then you're going to start getting like the Devon Achans versus, and I think it becomes a question if you go like any crazy too higher, but like hopefully this kind of helps in a comfort level for everybody, because I know you guys are going to say some big names or Jordan Mason, and a majority of the time it is going to be Jordan Mason. But those questions will extend into some running backs that are in the next range. So everybody else is relatively chalk. Let's look at RB2s for this week, starting with number 13, Ashton Jeanty, Travis Etienne, James Conner, Kyron Williams, Breece Hall coming in at 18 as Alvin Kamara, followed by Javonte Williams, Ken Walker at 20, Chuba Hubbard, Tony Pollard, Omarion Hampton, and Jalen Warren. Ashton Jeanty was the player that was bumped out of this. He was ECR 12 before Jordan Mason jumped in. And I think a very common question, Andrew, is going to be that, do I start Ashton Jeanty or Jordan Mason? And I think the clear-cut answer based on your guys' ranks, clearly right here, is that it's Jordan Mason. Jeanty comes in at 13. You've got him at 16. Fitz has got him at ECR. You are a little bit lower. There's a lot of questions about Jeanty's he looks decent when he's out there, but it's just overall efficiency. Dude can't pass block. You're going to have to get him out of pass blocking situations whatsoever. They just can't get anything going. So what's your level of excitement outside of like, yeah, he's numerical 16 this week? What's your optimism on Ashton Jeanty?
I think that it's kind of lukewarm. I don't think that he has looked terrible as a rusher. I think that he's been as advertised in terms of his tackle breaking, because every time that he touches the ball, he has to break a tackle because he's not getting much front from a blocking perspective from his offensive line. So I do want to mention that the Raiders were missing an offensive lineman in their Monday night game. Jack Powers-Johnson did not play, so if he comes back, that's a boost for their offensive line. But, I mean, when it comes to just tackle breaking on rushing attempts, he's third in the NFL in forced missed tackles. Bijan, JT, and Gibbs are the only other guys that have more forced missed tackles than Ashton Jeanty. So that was his calling card at the college level. So he's doing his job, at least from a rushing and breaking tackles perspective. Now, like you said, the pass pro could use some work. He's still making some rookie mistakes. There was a play where Geno kind of went to hand off the ball to Jeanty, and he was going the other way. And then, what do you know? He wasn't in on the next drive because they're like, all right, dude, you got to figure out the play call. So I think that he's going through some growing pains as a rookie, and I don't think the Commanders have necessarily been a as bad of a run defense as they were, specifically last year. But where they have been bad this year is in the red zone. So I think Jeanty can still find the end zone. I don't think the Raiders are just going to not score any points, especially if they're going up against a backup quarterback in Marcus Mariota. I think Jeanty's going to get a lot of opportunities, and he's going to see a lot of touches. So I think that the volume is there, but probably more of a floor play this week than super high ceiling. We just need Jeanty to get a soft defensive matchup before we really think I see him have a breakout spot. I mean, 2 of his matchups so far this year haven't been necessarily great. But I think you still got to be patient with him. And I think that there's enough volume where he'll be a floor play.
I think the frustration has come from, like, I'm a little surprised. I just thought he'd be used more in the passing game. Like, just get him into some open field, especially if you can't block. And I think that's where the frustration of the upside kind of lays. This is not a trade show, but I think we probably are going to agree, like, for the most part, like, he's just an ultimate buy low right now. Like, I think there's just a lot of, like, negatives that are, all these rookie running backs, there's negatives built around. But Jeanty's a little bit different because people, getting sold on the idea that he could be the number 1 overall player. A, he hasn't looked like it. B, the offensive line stinks. You can't trust him in third downs, and he's not to be involved in the passing game a ton. If some of those start to alter, soft defenses being involved in the passing game, that's where like he is breaking tackles. He can be an explosive player. We're just waiting for it to happen, and hopefully it does. I think we're all buying. Fitzy, what do you think about Jeanty? You are a little bit higher. You're right on consensus. The volume really isn't the big question with him. It's just about, like, what does that volume end up doing? Doesn't help when Geno Smith throws like 1,200 interceptions in a game. But what do you think about Jeanty?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone should be freaking out over Jeanty's slow start. Like, yes, he's averaging 2.7 yards per carry. He's averaging half a yard per target. But as Erickson said, the Raiders' run blocking has been pretty shabby so far. They rank dead last in FTN's adjusted line yards metric. And that's the biggest reason I'm ranking Jeanty outside the top 12 at running back this week. But do not doubt Ashton Jeanty's talent. Like, he really is terrific. Well, Shu said it. We've seen the tackle breaking ability. And the contact balance is really his special sauce. There are big days coming. Maybe he has one against the Commanders. I mean, it's not a soft matchup, but it's definitely not a matchup to fear either. So you got to just keep starting this guy.
You guys have some questions, though, about ECR running back number 15, James Conner. James Conner coming in at 15. You guys both hand in hand are saying 22. So, it's not, you didn't boot him or anything like that, but you do not see, I think when you're top like 15, 16, you're kind of like must start. When you start to get into the 20s, I think people can start to find some justification. Fitz, what's got you down on James Conner?
Yeah, I'm surprised Erickson is so bullish. Normally he's pretty good at, wetting a finger and holding it up to see which way the wind is blowing. And maybe not in this case. Like, because we are seeing James Conner lose work to Trey Benson. Conner played only 5 more snaps than Benson in week 2. Benson actually ran more routes than Conner in that game. I just don't know if we should still be viewing Conner as a workhorse. Like, this might be more of a split backfield. It seems like things are starting to tilt a little bit in Benson's favor. Not that I think he's going to overtake Conner, but maybe it's more 55-45, 50-50 than it has been in the past. Plus, the road matchup against the 49ers isn't an especially easy one. So, yeah, I'm a little cool on Conner this week.
Yeah, well, Erickson, not bullish. Same rank as you, so 22. What do you think, Erickson?
Well, yeah, I was originally higher on James Conner, and it was actually more of just like an overlap from last week when I went out on a limb and like put him really high against the Panthers, and then
it's a great matchup last week,
and then he just did not deliver. And part of it was just because the Panthers like had the ball the entire game because they just kept turning it over to the Arizona Cardinals. So, but that goes into why Conner needs to be viewed more as a RB2 than an RB1, because the last 2 weeks he's been RB20 and RB25 in half PPR, despite playing the Saints and the Panthers. 2 really great matchups for James Conner, which is why I like drafting him in draft season, because, man, this guy has a perfect layout to start the year, easy matchups, and he's just been kind of okay for the first 2 weeks. His efficiency actually has not been that great in terms of success rate. Fitz outlined how they're using Trey Benson a little bit more. I thought it was kind of interesting. Trey Benson took over that entire 2-minute drive, which is why his receptions and routes run were so significantly higher than James Conner was. So again, yeah, Conner is going to get touches. He's going to get goal line opportunities still in this offense, but this is the toughest run defense that the Cardinals have faced. Yes, with the 49ers. And when you look at them top and bottom, the only thing that they really struggle with is quarterback scrambles. So you might see more Kyler Murray rushing around versus James Conner ripping off these big runs, because we really haven't seen that for him through 2 weeks. So maybe showing his age just a little bit as an older running back, and Trey Benson has looked explosive. So Conner definitely more of an RB2 play.
Yeah, I'd throw out too is like a contextual 49er thing. But the Niners are probably more likely to spy Warner on a Kyler Murray, which creates opportunities for McBride, because when Warner was not doing coverage, Juwan Johnson was kind of eating the Niners up a little bit. He had a couple big drops when they were just putting safeties on him. So if you're going to put safeties or like an Upton Stout or something like a nickel corner on McBride, that's actually a really good opportunity for McBride this week, because I would assume they're going to spy. So just as a little aside there, and nothing to do with Connor, by the way, but it just made me think of that. We had to talk about this guy because how 1 week has completely changed, not completely, but it has changed like the tone of how we talk about Ken Walker. We were out in week 1. We're kind of back. ECR is 20. It's adjusted itself. It was actually, I believe, 17 just a day ago. He's moved down to 20. Both of you guys are higher than consensus. The snap percentage was worrisome. It was low, but what he did when he got his touches was big. So, Erickson, you've got him at 16. Fitz has got him at 17. What's your level of your rank speaks for it, but like, where are you at in an actual level of confidence with Ken Walker this week?
I think you got to trust the talent with Ken Walker, because from a workload perspective, we have no idea how the Seahawks are necessarily going to deploy their players. I mean, have you ever seen a box score where the leading ball carrier had 15 carries for 10 yards and the other guy had 13 carries for over 100 yards? Like, that is absolutely bonkers. You have one guy running for over 8 yards a carry and then one guy below 1 yard.
And by the way, if you then blindly showed the snap percentage and then the stats, you'd be like, what? Like what? Throw that out there.
So really, it's really hard to project exactly what the touch workload is going to look like. But we do know the Seahawks like to run the football. Like, I think that Charbonnet and Walker are going to get enough touches where if one of them is efficient, then that player will be a good play in this particular week. And that's what we saw from Ken Walker. The Seahawks were talking about, we want to run more of the outside zone. That's what Ken Walker is best at, and that's why he thrived in this past matchup. So I think that's still the right move in the right direction to go into, because of how well he's been running in the outside zone. So I like this particular matchup for Ken Walker to expose the defense he's going up against versus Charbonnet, who I don't think fits nearly the type of scheme that Kubiak is running as good as Ken Walker does. And so even though the snaps were in favor of Charbonnet last week, and that is always a concern, if Charbonnet's out snapping him, how is Ken Walker going to score as many points? Well, you're just banking on an explosive player that fits his rushing scheme, hitting on a few big plays, and that worked last week. So, I mean, Ken Walker is first in the NFL in success rate through 2 games. I think they're going to continue to feature. Again, if I had to make a bet on who's going to probably play more snaps this week, it would probably be Ken Walker if they go back and watch the tape and like, yeah, we probably should get Ken Walker the ball more.
Yeah. And Fitzy, I think if anything, it's just like, feel like we know a little bit more. Like, we saw him you just wanted to see Ken Walker be successful. Is he going to be the primary guy? No. You just feel like we've got a better grasp of what Ken Walker is and what is a pretty good matchup here. Is that kind of a relative push to where you've got him ranked?
Yeah, I mean, there were so many questions in our Fantasy Pros Discord last week about Ken Walker and getting outsnapped 30-21 by Zach Charbonnet in week 1. But I told people, like, I think it was largely related to Walker dealing with some foot soreness in August and the Seahawks feeling enough confidence in Charbonnet as a really good number 2, or, you know, at least the 1B to Walker's 1A, that they could like give him more snaps in a game and not fall off as a result. And I think that's what we saw. But like, Walker was plenty busy in week 1, like 21 snaps, and he touched the ball on 13 of them and either carried the ball or ran a route on 19 of them. And then last week we saw him do a terrific job. Erickson said it, like the Seahawks got that outside zone going last week, and they just ran over the Steelers with Kenneth Walker. I think it's still going to be a 2-man backfield this week. I kind of expect something close to 50-50. And even though Zach Charbonnet didn't play well against the Steelers, I don't think we should read too much into that. Like, I've still got him ranked running back 30 this week in a really good matchup against the Saints, where the Seahawks are favored by more than a touchdown at home and should have a run-friendly game script. So I think Walker is a must start this week. The Kubiak running game, like, I'm a big believer in it. It's just a really good spot, and I don't think Charbonnet is a bad play either.
Oh, Omarion Hampton. You come in at ECR RB 23. The last one we're going to talk about in the RB2s. Fitzy, you got him at 23. Erickson, you've got him at 26. I think there's just a lot of frustration, a lot of stuff on, like, you know, on film too that people look at and they're like, what are we doing here? Fitzy, Can you sell us a little bit on Omarion Hampton? Like you mentioned at the top of this show, just underperformance just in general from the rookies. Najee Harris getting a little bit more involved. What's your confidence level on Omarion Hampton?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's a hard case to make. Welsh, like my circle of trust with running backs in week 3 goes about 22 running backs deep, and I've got Omarion Hampton ranked RB 23. I'm still bullish overall on Hampton, but it's fair to be concerned about his week 3 outlook against a pretty tough Denver defense. Hampton had 8 carries for 24 yards against the Raiders on Monday night. Didn't look good. Coughed up a fumble late, although the NFL wrongly charged the fumble to quarterback Justin Herbert. They should not have. That was clearly Omarion Hampton's fumble. The snap share for Najee Harris went from 18.5% in week 1 to 34.5% in week 2. But I do think Hampton investors should be patient. At least prepare yourselves for the possibility of another lackluster game from your rookie running back. But that said, I still think Hampton is a terrific prospect who eventually gets going.
Oh, Erickson, what's your take? What do you think here? I mean, this is a bad matchup. Snap percentage going in the wrong direction. Stats are going in the wrong direction. Fumble. To me, it has everything that you don't cut. Just get him on the bench and don't let him do it this week. That's kind of my take on it. I don't think I'm going to have Hampton very high because I think you're probably better suited taking some shots in some other directions, especially with the defensive matchup. I'm not saying you're doing that. You got him at 26. This is still like relatively close to startable range, but what do you think?
He's definitely someone I'm trying to find other alternatives than starting Omarion Hampton. To some of the points that Fitz laid out, just the optics of the situation haven't been great. And the thing that's most frustrating about Hampton and why we were excited about him was this was his chance to really take this running back role and run off with it. Like, he was teed up because Najee was a non-factor. They're all training camp. They're the first couple games. Like, this is Hampton's backfield. Well, he had his chance. He had a shot, and he blew it. Like, he didn't convert. He didn't end up making the type of statement to take over this backfield that we thought that he might be able to do as a first-round pick, taking at the running back position. The other thing, the issue is with Greg Roman. He hasn't been really involved in the passing game, which was one of the bigger things he did at UNC. And Greg Roman is kind of doing the same thing that he's done in past offenses where he's not having Justin Herbert check the ball down to his running backs. And honestly, I don't blame him because Justin Herbert is really fun when he throws to all these wide receivers making big plays down the field. And then when Herbert's not doing that, Herbert's running with his own legs, which is also contributing to the fact of a lack of a target share for these running backs. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see even more of Najee Harris, unfortunately. And it goes back to kind of like, I think our consensus take beforehand was that Najee Harris was going to be in the thorn to the side of Hampton. But this was all before the eye injury thing kind of happened, and then we kind of adjusted our expectations. Well, it's like, well, no. Now he should be teed up to start the year as the guy, and now I think we have to go back to what we thought before the injury happened with Najee Harris in his eye. So, I think he's going to be frustrating to start the next couple weeks, but hopefully he can turn it around.
RBs 25 through 36 are RB3s coming up, but first, dominate your fantasy football league with Fantasy Pros Premium, now available free for 6 months when you deposit and place your first wager on one of our partner sports books. This is the easiest way to get access to our top fantasy tools all season long. Don't miss this opportunity and go to fantasypros.com/premium to get started. Our final RBs here, starting at 25, we've got J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery, Bill Krosky-Merritt, Nick Chubb. Coming in at 30 is Isiah Pacheco, Ramondre Stevenson, TreVeyon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, Zach Charbonnet, Bashal Tutin, and Cam Skattebo. Slow it down a little bit here. Isiah Pacheco. Let's talk about the Pacheco here for a minute. He was 29. He's moved down to 30 on this list. You guys are a little bit split on him. I still see nothing that makes me feel good about him. I'm just going to continue kind of holding my take on Pacheco the entire way through. But Erickson, you are the positive one. You've got him at 29. Fitzy, you've got him at 33. Let's get the positive take on Pacheco for week 3, Erickson.
I mean, is that rank really positive?
I mean, I heard it myself say it like positive, air quotes. Yeah.
It's very relative to, what the expectations are very low for Isiah Pacheco. This Chiefs offense is still looking like it needs answers and it needs guys to step up. I don't think that Pacheco has necessarily looked nearly as bad as his box score would suggest it is. They talked about on the broadcast of the Chiefs and Eagles game that the team feels like he's back to having similar juice to he had prior to his leg injury. So I don't think that the team is totally like, all right, we're ready to commit to Kareem Hunt as the bell cow because we know that's not going to happen. Like Kareem Hunt's going to have his role. He's going to stumble around, pick up some yards, maybe score some touchdowns. I still think they want Pacheco to be the same guy that he was again prior to the injury. And I think this one just based on the matchup. I mean, the Giants have given up the most rushing yards per game allowed this season through 2 weeks. So it's almost kind of that now or never. If Pacheco's ever going to turn back the clock, he's ever going to show the juice, it's got to be when all the Chiefs receivers are hurt, Patrick Mahomes leads the team in rushing. Like, they need answers, and Pacheco has to be that guy. So maybe we see it on Sunday night. I would love to see it as someone that was investing into Pacheco, having a couple dynasty spots as well. So I think that he's worth the flyer, and that's kind of why I'm quote-unquote bullish on Isiah Pacheco. But again, sometimes you just got to lean into those matchups, even if the running backs are underperforming, because sometimes it's as simple as, well, he faced the Giants, and they can't stop the run. So go, Pacheco.
Erickson's just sitting here in his white dress talking to R2D2. Just be like, help us, Isiah Pacheco. You're our only hope. This is it. If real quick, because I want to get Fitz's take, just because you said that, if he fails this week, is he a top 36 running back the following week? Don't look at the matchup. Don't even care about the matchup. I don't care about that.
Unless Kareem Hunt is the one. Unless Kareem Hunt's the one that like takes advantage of the Giants matchup.
I'm saying he gets his 10 carries for 34 yards this week against the Giants.
I think he just cut him.
Okay. That's where I wanted to jump ahead of. Yeah, exactly. All right, Fitzy, you've got him at 33.
No, sir, 27.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I apologize. I looked at that completely wrong. That's my bad. He's ECR 30. Erickson had him at 32. Fitzy, you are 27. That is a my bad thing. So you get a little bit more of the positive take on here for Isiah Pacheco.
Yes, it is matchup based, which is why if Isiah Pacheco does face plant this week, we have big concerns about that, because the Giants, they rank 32nd in DVOA against the run. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt averaged better than 8 yards per carry against them in week 1. Javonte Williams looked like pre-knee injury Javonte Williams against the Giants in week 2. Like this is a get-right spot for Pacheco. So, yes, if he does not get right, you have reasons to be concerned.
I love that. I actually, now you kind of fired me up a little bit. I'm kind of fired up about like, this is get right situation. Going to be paying attention to him in the prop market. And at least there's more confidence, like if you needed to start him. All right. Another rookie that we've been talking about, TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson in ECR is now ranked below Ramondre Stevenson this week. Comes in at ECR 32. Fitzy, you've got him at 33, a little bit lower. Erickson's a little bit higher. Fitz, I want to get your take on TreVeyon Henderson. As you do it, though, who is higher, Henderson or Stevenson for you this week?
Oh, Ramondre. I think he has to be. I mean, he played, 20 more snaps than Henderson? Actually, I've got them side by side. Side by side, Ramondre 1 spot higher.
And that's that's exactly how ECR in the ranks is going as well.
Yeah, so, and maybe it should be, if anything, I mean, it should probably be a bigger gap in Stevenson's favor. Pass protection was really one of the selling points for TreVeyon Henderson as a prospect. Like he's good at it, even though he's not a big guy, or at least he was in college, but he's really struggled in that area so far. I wonder if it might keep his usage down early in the season until the Patriots are convinced that he can capably protect franchise quarterback Drake May. So Henderson only played about 32% of New England's offensive snaps in week 2, about half as many as Ramondre, and the Patriots gave 10 snaps to third string running back Antonio Gibson. So Henderson had just 5 touches last week. I don't fear the matchup against the Steelers, whose run defense has looked really bad so far this season, including against Kenneth Walker last week. But until we feel more confident about the workload for TreVeyon Henderson, it's real hard to just keep throwing him into your lineup. I think you got to make other plans this week.
Yeah, I think one of the big selling points, Erickson, you tell me if I'm wrong here, and maybe this is based on your rank at all, is that one of the things the Steelers have definitely been doing is giving up plays, explosive plays to like explosive backs. And that's something that that Henderson definitely can do. You can see him as a guy that can bust out a 40-yard run, and maybe that gives the upside. But a lot of what Fitz was laying out kind of makes me feel that direction. What's your positive, take on Henderson being a little bit higher than ECR?
Leaning into the explosive element like you alluded to. if we had just played the running back who played the more snaps before they faced the Steelers, then we would have played Zach Charbonnet over Ken Walker last week, and that would have been the wrong take. So why? So after 1 week, Ramondre, week 1 looked terrible. Week 2, he looks fantastic. You look at the Steelers again; they're bad against the outside zone. Like that is where they give up the plays in space. On the broadcast, all they talked about with TreVeyon Henderson, get this guy in space, get this guy in space. That wasn't needed necessarily against the Miami Dolphins. I think they're going to need that against the Pittsburgh Steelers. When you look at the outside zone runs this year, Henderson, 5.2 yards per carry outside zone or outside the tackle. Ramondre Stevenson, 1.6 yards per carry. So I'm kind of like afraid to buy into Stevenson because what if he puts up a Zach Charbonnet-esque stat line where he's not the one that's efficient because he's not ripping off the explosive plays? Now, he had some against the Miami Dolphins, but a lot of that was on inside tackle rushes, not necessarily out in space. Whereas, to your point, Welsh, the Steelers were getting gashed by explosives. Like, that's TreVeyon Henderson. That is who he is as a guy. That's what he's used best at, is generating explosive plays. He hasn't done that 2 weeks into his NFL career, but it's there. Like, so I think that they're going to see what the Steelers put on tape and realize, oh man, like we put Henderson out in space, like they're not going to be able to stop this guy. So I still have Henderson ranked over Stevenson this week just because of the matchup specifically.
Final running back we're going to talk about, I think it's a super fascinating one, and it's kind of why, like, when I talk about the like clarity and the rookie thing, but the clarity thing of like you're just having more guys, you feel your confidence level is rising up outside of maybe the TreVeyons and stuff. Is a guy like Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo, we kind of thought this might be later. It took over as far as carries by a wide margin on Tyrone Tracy. I think a lot of people are ready to. I wonder if we're too early on it, but people are ready to anoint him as the starter. Comes in at 36. Looks better than Tracy in general. I'm kind of done with Tracy, and you guys tend to agree. Erickson, you've got him at 33. Fitz, you've got him at 35. Erickson, why don't you hit us with Cam Skattebo? The usage last week is enough for you to be able to put him in as like a flexy type running back, correct?
Yeah, because I think that he has, at least from what we saw, if they get into the red zone, he's going to get the rock. So that has touchdown equity attached to it. Again, you can move the ball on the Chiefs with Malik Neighbors as your number one wide receiver. And, I mean, he still catches dump-off passes, and he's a bowling ball when he gets the ball in his hands. Whether it's a rush, whether it's a pass, he's going to try to get every single yard possible. So you're going to get everything you hope for with Cam Skattebo. So that's for me. Like, yeah, I think that he's in that conversation of, again, the matchup is not great. Like, the Chiefs are one of the top-tier run defenses. So that's always a concern, especially when you are the Giants' offensive line, and we don't know if Andrew Thomas is going to play. So it's definitely a stretch, but he's definitely someone that you want to have on your roster, and someone that I would definitely rather start than Tyrone Tracy.
By the way, isn't it unfortunate? How many times do you think he's called scam all the time? Like I call him, I do the same thing, like scam Badaboo. Like you can't do it. Cam Skattebo, and it's scam comes out. It's a really unfortunate name that's putting out there, but we'll go with bowling ball. Fitzy, do you think Cam Skattebo, aka Scam, is the back over Tyrone Tracy starting in week 3?
I do, and I think the hostile takeover of the Giants' backfield began last week. Skattebo led the Giants' backfield in snaps, carries, and routes, and he looked really good. Like, he had 11 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown, which does not include a 12-yard run where he absolutely trucked one of the Dallas defensive backs, only to have that run called back by a penalty. Also had a couple of catches for 12 yards. Tyrone Tracy is returning kickoffs for the Giants, which strikes me as kind of a tell that the Giants see him as the number 2. Like, the only reason I don't have Skattebo in my top 30 this week is because of the matchup against the Chiefs defense that's always tough against the run.
Well, if you guys got more questions, which I know you were going to end up having if we didn't answer it here, you can go to fantasypros.com/rankings, and you can check out where the rankings adjust and move around for your start and sit stuff. But if what we talked about didn't answer your start and sit, we've got a YouTube live for you where we are literally just sitting there for an hour doing your start and sit questions. Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern, every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So those on the pod, go to youtube.com/fantasypros. And if you subscribe, you can make sure to put on notifications so you do not miss that. Those are your week 3 rankings. Hopefully we hit everything you guys want. For Pat Fitzmaurice and Andrew Erickson, I'm Chris Welsh, and good luck this week. And we'll talk to you next time right here on Fantasy Pros.